Good to see you, Vinny. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm a little surprised that your Cowboys is going to blow out San Francisco take yesterday.
Yeah.
A little high on your own supply from
Yeah.
Big East crack commandments.
Oh, yeah. Which one is that number? What number is that I violated? What number did I violate? Is it
That's number five. It's number five. It's
number five? But if you look at the way he's playing, is he not? Is LeBron James not a top 6 player in the NBA still at 38 years old? I feel like my point is, I think we have taken this man for granted.
Oh, don't do it. Don't do that. Don't do that.
On the court, I think we have.
Oh,
I think we have.
Oh,
tell me why I shouldn't do it.
I was listening to the discussion and I was just disgusted. Like, LeBron. We're not talking about LeBron enough. We're not appreciating him. Like, my God, how much can this man be appreciated? Like, is every conversation supposed to be dedicated to him? I do not understand.
This is a more nuanced conversation than an emotional one. And what I'm saying simply is this.
Don't call me emotional.
I wasn't talking about you. I was saying the conversation is emotional. I am not going there.
Yo,
I was not going
come
there.
on, Natalie.
Oh my goodness.
Come on, Natalie.
Natalie, you know better.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to seeing my brother Jim Trotter. Jim, welcome to Brother from Another. Good to see you, man. How you doing?
It's always a pleasure to see you. You know that, Michael Holley.
Hey, man, I'll tell you, it's even more of a pleasure today since you are wearing one of the iconic logos on that hoodie that you have on, the Seattle Supersonics. Shout out to our fans in the Pacific Northwest. Shout out Seattle. You deserve a team. You deserve a team. And
Absolutely.
that team should be called the Supersonics. Don't change it up. Don't call it like one of these singular sports team names like the Kraken there in Seattle, the Heat, the Miami Heat. It's always confusing, like these singular sports team names. Just give me a good plural name like the Supersonics. And Jim, I loved going there. I mean, you covered the NFL for many years at a high level, and so you still have reason to go to Seattle for the Seahawks. But I used to love, when I covered the NBA, I used to love that little swing. So we go Portland to the Rose Garden, it was called then. I don't know what they call it now. They still call it the Rose Garden? Probably not. Corporate naming is taken over. So I used to go to the Rose Garden in Portland, then make the trip to Seattle in Key Arena. And then after the trip to Seattle, where would we go? Vancouver. Oh, what a trip. Vancouver, BC. For the Vancouver Grizzlies, but that's old school. I used to miss. I missed that trip. Let me ask you this.
That really was one of the best swings in the NBA. That really was one of the best swings in the NBA. Look, my second job out of college was in Tacoma, Washington, and so I got to go at times.
Oh, I didn't know
when
that.
I was lucky. Yeah. I was a high school writer, community writer at that time, and they would throw me a bone every now and then and say, "Hey, you can go write a sidebar at the Supersonics game." And the atmosphere there was just tremendous. And so when you think about, as you were just talking about, that swing from Portland to Seattle to Vancouver, which is one of the great cities in North America as well, just phenomenal. And I hate that the NBA writers of today have not been able to experience that, because everyone looked forward to that trip that I know of.
And you know what? I don't want to praise one group while knocking down another group. I just want to point out that we swapped out Seattle for Oklahoma City. I'm not hating. But Seattle was replaced by Oklahoma City, and Vancouver, I'm going to make some enemies now. Vancouver was replaced by Memphis. Vancouver, Memphis. I don't know. I mean, look. Some people might take the Memphis, Oklahoma City option. But I'm going
Seattle,
Vancouver.
In trouble right off the top, huh? You're going to get us in trouble right off the top. I got you.
And you know what? But at least I'm getting us in trouble. It's you and it's me. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for you. So if I do something, I'm going somewhere here. If I do it, I'm not going to blame Gary Carter for making me do it. I'm not going to blame Natalie for making me do it. I'm not going to blame Matt Casey and Courtney Gustafson on different shows down the line for making me do it. No. I got the mic, and I'm going to take responsibility. Unlike some of these millennial coaches in the National Football League. Jim, I see that you have a scapegoat season in the NFL. I don't know what your take is on it. I think I'm going to agree with you, though, because I'm looking at some of these firings from these coaches, and I'm thinking, okay, so what's your messaging is things didn't go well, and it's not your fault. It's not. I know they'll spin it into, well, I'm being accountable. The buck stops with me. It starts and stops here, so I've got to make tough decisions. Well, I don't know about that. Maybe a more noble decision is to say what you did to put your team in this situation and not blame people down the line. Jim, I'm shocked. The LA Chargers blew a 27-zip lead in a playoff game, and they fired the quarterback's coach and an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
What?
Look, I would say this to you. I know. I would say this to you. What this is to me is about a day and age now where I'm going to make changes to keep my job. It is not about, I think they did a poor job. It is about ownership that says, if you want to stay on the sideline in that position, you got to make some changes. Some coaches do, and some don't. I'll give you, for instance, last year, not last year, but a couple of years ago, this very same franchise, the Chargers, it was known that they wanted some changes on the coaching staff. Anthony Lynn, who is a man of character, said, not doing it. And what happened? Anthony Lynn got fired. And you and I have talked about this. You and I have talked about this in the past with Marty Schottenheimer going all the way back to Cleveland. The ownership, Art Modell, wanted changes on the staff. Marty Schottenheimer said, I'm not making those changes. And so what happened? Marty was out in Cleveland. So to me, it's when I use that phrase scapegoat, look, Byron Leftwich is taking the fall for some of the things that went on in Tampa. And a few years ago, before Tom Brady arrived, what did that offense look like with Byron Leftwich running it with Jameis Winston? It put up tremendous numbers in terms of the pass game, a 5,000-yard passing season, I think 33 touchdown passes. It so happens Jameis Winston also threw 30 interceptions. Are we going to put that on Byron Leftwich? But anyway, that offense was one of the better offenses or more productive offenses in the NFL that year. Tom comes in, and what does he do? First 2 years, he puts up all these crazy numbers, and we want to give credit solely to Tom Brady. And now that there's a bad year, and Brady doesn't play well, and Mike Evans doesn't play well, and whatnot.
Preach!
Now
Preacher.
it's Byron Leftwich's. It's Byron Leftwich's fault. I mean, come on here. What are we doing here? And the thing that bothers me most about this, Michael, if I can be completely frank here, is that when you do something like this, it attacks the character of these men who are being let go, particularly a guy like Byron Leftwich, who we know last year had an opportunity to be the head coach at Jacksonville and decided to pull out because he didn't feel the situation was right. But Byron Leftwich is a good football coach. Byron Leftwich is a good offensive football coach. Byron Leftwich played quarterback in the NFL. He knows the position and whatnot. His offenses have put up numbers prior to Tom Brady even being there. So it's just curious to me that one bad season, and what's the reaction? You're out. And I have not talked to Todd Bowles about this yet, but I have to believe that for him to keep his job, there needed to be changes made on that staff. And that's the unfortunate thing that Byron Leftwich ended up being one of the people who was let go.
See, there's a lot there. You said a lot of good stuff there, Jim. I agree with it all. This is not one of those contrived, I got to disagree with Trotter to make it better. No, we don't do that. I agree with everything you said, and I'll start here. You know, one of the things that makes me cringe when I hear teams do it, it makes me cringe, although it's accurate. When they do when they break it down, family on three. 1, 2, 3, family. You know, you hear like basketball teams do that sometimes. Football teams do that when they go into a huddle and they break on family. Well, some families have your back. Some families will come together. They can talk about each other, but if you try to come at them, no, this is a united front. And you're not going after our brother. You're not going after our sister. Not on our watch. We do this together. And some families turn on each other. And so I think, 1, 2, 3 family, we're seeing the families that kind of turn on each other. Yeah, during the season, hey, we're in this together. Hey, nobody outside of this locker room understands. We're in this. Come on, this is a brotherhood. But then when it comes down to it, what do you do, as you pointed out, when the owner comes to you and says, all right, you're going to keep your job and do what I want, or you're going to stand by your principles? And some people stand by their principles and say, you keep the damn job. You got the job. I know I can coach. I know I'll land somewhere else. It may take, I may go on a 2-year detour. It may be a 3-year detour. But I'm gonna come up on the right side of this. I'm gonna be able to sleep at night and keep my conscience because I'm gonna make the right decision. And let me just get to Tom Brady here for a second. Tom Brady's a coach killer. He is. Now, he's a coach killer. Let me just go back, okay? Brian Flores told us last year, about almost a year ago, Brian Flores came out with his lawsuit, racial discriminatory hiring practices against the National Football League. And in that paperwork, we learned all sorts of things about the Miami Dolphins, how they incentivized him to lose. The Dolphins paid the price, by the way. Sorry, Stephen Ross, you don't think you did anything wrong. Yeah, well, a suspension and lost income or a fine says otherwise from the NFL.
And
draft one of the worst things.
And draft pick.
Roger Goodell said it was one of the worst things he's ever seen. That's in print. You can look that up. Well documented. But one of the things that was going to happen, Tom Brady, he's always around when coaches are losing their jobs. So Tom Brady and Sean Payton were going to come in. Brian Flores out. Tua Tagovailoa out. Sean Payton and Tom Brady in. That's one. That was going to happen. That whole plan blew up. So they were going to do that. So by extension, you could say Tom Brady was fine with that plan. So Brian Flores, a guy who was on his staff in New England, loses his job. So be it. It's what I need. It's what Tom Brady needs. Now, let's go second year in Tampa. He retires after that second year in Tampa. Then he comes back. Then all of a sudden, Bruce Arians is like, whoa. Oh, I've been retired here. I'm retired. So Bruce Arians retires. Tom Brady, I have a great relationship with Bruce. Now that Bruce is up in the booth, now, third year in Tampa. Byron Leftwich, couldn't stop loving on Byron Leftwich in 2020. Hey, he's a great play caller. He's a great mind. I really enjoy it. They were great in 2020 on offense. They were great in 2021 on offense. They were not great in 2022. I'm sure Byron Leftwich could have been better in 2022. Let's not let him off the hook. He could have been better in 22. You know who else could have been better in 22? You know who else could have been better? Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. Hey, man, you're the leader of the team. And I know this is going to sound insensitive to some people, but so be it. Everybody got problems. He's not the only one going through a divorce. He's not the only one going through personal problems away from the facility. A lot of guys, you can't tell me that coaches and players and staff for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that everything was smooth for them in their personal lives last summer. But Tom Brady's the only one who went away for 11 days. Dude, you can't go away for 11 days and then expect everything is going to be fine in training camp. Furthermore, Robert Kraft gets married in New York on a Friday. Tom Brady, on a Friday, goes to New York for the wedding, misses a walkthrough on a Saturday in Pittsburgh, then shows up in Pittsburgh yelling at his teammates because they're not performing at a high level, they lose that game. Now Byron Leftwich has lost his job. So it's all about Tom. And I respect him. Let's not get into this. Oh, you hating on Brady. I'm just telling the truth about Brady because I've seen him I still think he's the greatest player I've ever seen, greatest quarterback I've ever seen in NFL history. But he deserves some of this finger pointing too. But you know what? Byron Leftwich lost his job. Bruce Arians lost his job, and Tom Brady will go on to the next location. Probably not Tampa. Wherever it is, get the graveyards ready. You're going to need some more space because Tom Brady, there's going to be some coaching tombstones there too when Tom Brady comes to your city.
What did we talk about before the season? And I said to you, I didn't think Tampa was going to make the playoffs. And had it not been for them being in a horrible division, they would not have made it. That said, why did I say that to you? And I told you at the time, when you think about retirement, there is this adage that you are already retired. And he had already retired and then came back. So his mind was not right, in my opinion, from Jump Street. The second thing is, if you watch Tom Brady this year, when he was in New England, one of the things you saw is that he was willing to stand in that pocket and take the hit to deliver the pass.
Ooh.
When I watched Tom Brady this year, I saw a quarterback who did not want to stand in the pocket and take the hit to deliver the pass. And I'm like you. I'm not hating on Tom Brady. I think he's the greatest quarterback ever in the history of this game. And that's coming from a guy who is a San Francisco native and who had sworn for decades there would never be another quarterback greater than Joe Montana. Okay? And I'm saying that Tom Brady is the greatest. But I also know this, when you get older, things change. Your game changes. And look, if everything is perfect around him, if the pocket is clean, he can still sling it with the best of them, I believe. But that ain't the game in Tampa, and we knew that when they lost 3 offensive linemen at the start of the season that was not going to be it. And so, again, he did not play well this year. Mike Evans did not play well this year. Leonard Fournette did not play well this year. The offensive line did not play well this year. And so for Byron Leftwich and Clyde Christensen and others to take the fall for that, I just think is terrible. And the other thing is, you say Tom's going to go on to his next stop. This better be a buyer beware for whatever that next team is, because you are not getting the Tom Brady, the one who won 7 Super Bowls. You're not. You're getting a quarterback who is older, who doesn't want to be hit. And if I'm reading this right from what I saw this year, I can't say that his commitment to football is 100% beyond everything else as it used to be. And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, to go into a situation where your quarterback doesn't want to be hit. And I heard somebody talking, I can't remember. I want to give credit.
And look, no quarterback wants to be hit. Let's acknowledge that. No quarterback wants to be hit, right?
They don't want it, but
Correct.
You usually don't know that. It's not that obvious. And if I'm one of his teammates, if they dare and go back and watch that film from the wild card game against Dallas, I wouldn't watch that together. If I'm Tom Brady, I wouldn't sit there and watch that with my teammates because that's embarrassing. Those guys know, especially the defensive players. Defensive players know when you don't want any kind of contact. They can. So defensive players on his team sitting there watching that film, seeing him skip passes, release the ball early. He threw that interception in the end zone. It was 6-zip. Because of the extra point situation. We'll talk about that later. But it was 6-zip. Tampa has a 1st and goal situation. Looks like they're going to score something. It'll be 6-3, if not 7-6. Okay, they got a kicker who can make extra points. And Tom Brady doesn't want to get hit, and he tries to throw it away in the back of the end zone, interception. That was all because he didn't want to get hit. He had about, I'm going to say at least a half dozen of those throws, probably more, since he threw the ball 66 times, Jim. 66 times in a playoff game. So how can I go in to a season knowing my quarterback will be fine unless things aren't perfect. It's football. Things will be imperfect.
Absolutely.
A lineman's going to get
Absolutely.
beat. The best of them. Your best guard,
Absolutely.
your best tackle is going to get beat. And your quarterback's going to get hit.
Yeah, and what it also said to me, it was a reflection that he had absolutely no confidence in those people in front of him, right? Because if you're already shying away from that contact before it even arrives, which we saw at times this year, it tells me that you don't believe in those guys up front. And I'm not saying he should believe in them because they didn't play well up front. But the reality is when you play that position, you make a deal with the devil that there are times you're going to have to give it up to get something. You have to give something to get something. And what you give is your body to get that big play. And what I saw at various points this season is that Tom was not willing to give that. So if you are that team who is going to court him to play for you next season, just know that. Just know it.
And then how are you going to do that? I mean, how are you going to do? I'll say this. The last thing I'll say about Brady, because I kind of want to get in a word on Sean McVay too.
What you got on Sean? I want to hear this.
Okay, just on Brady, real quick. I'll say, look, if I need a great offensive line, if I need a tight end who can take the pressure off me, I need a great offensive scheme. I need a good running back. Between the tackles back and a third down back. I mean, okay, yeah. Don't we all? Don't we all? Like how many times can you create that? How many times can you create that situation? Give him credit. He did in 2020. They did in 2020 because you had Mike Evans, a younger Mike Evans, 3 years younger Mike Evans. You had Godwin, who was healthy. The answer was yes. They traded for Gronk, so you had Gronk in there. They were a good offense the year before, but remember Bruce Arians, they asked him, I think it was at the scouting combine, they said, hey, what does your team need? What's the biggest difference with your team, or what's the problem? He said quarterback. He said it flat out. That's before they had Brady. He said quarterback. And he even put it out, probably some tampering. He was like, hey, if we can get Tom Brady, we'll be in good shape. He knew that. The infrastructure was in place, and then Brady made it better because he added a couple more. They drafted a tackle in the first round. I think they drafted Tristan Wirfs there. So they were able to support him. But that's rare. It's rare that a team is going to have all of that infrastructure already in place, and then all you got to do is just tweak it a little bit, and now you got a championship-ready offense. This is what I want to say about McVay quickly. I think a couple of weeks ago when we talked about his career crisis, I think that was passive-aggressive Sean McVay. You may think that's unfair. It's just the way I look at it. He's going through his career crisis at 36 years old. Yeah, I'm making fun of him. He's 36 years old, been in 2 Super Bowls, won one of them, got a new contract last year, and the stories that were leaked about McVay, so much happening in his life. He got married. That's a good thing, right? Got married. Won the Super Bowl. Another good thing. Got a new contract. That's a good thing. And TV stations, networks were reaching out to him because they were tempting him with more income. So that's the crisis. He had all this stuff going on in his world, and he has his first losing season of his career. Joined the club with Don Shula and Bill Belichick and Chuck Noll and Tom Landry, all these Hall of Fame coaches. They've had losing seasons. Marty Schottenheimer, all these great coaches have had, Bill Cowher. Lots of coaches have had losing seasons, Sean. You're not the first one. He tells you, but here's my tip-off. Here's my tip-off, Trotter. He told his coaches, you can look, I'll give you permission to look for another job.
Right.
Then he fires 5 assistant coaches. That is some weak-ish right there. That is so weak. Just fire him. You want to fire? Was this all a ruse? Because you just wanted to fire the guys, you didn't know how to do it? You wanted them to fire themselves first before you had to do it? Come on, man.
Well,
5
how is that?
coaches?
People
so
that
weak.
you like, you try and let them go softly. And what do I mean by that? Look at Arizona. They fired Cliff Kingsbury, but Steve Keim is stepping away permanently. So, and we know that Steve Keim and the owner have a very close relationship. So I'm sure Sean has a close relationship with these coaches that he let go, and was trying to let them, do it on their terms, so to speak, until it got to the point he had to answer when he decided he was coming back. Look, I'll say this to you, Michael. I don't know Sean McVay well enough personally to say what his motivations were. I do know that even before the Super Bowl, there had been talk about him stepping away. And was that a ruse to get more money on an extension? Could be. I can't say that it was or that it wasn't. Yeah. I don't know. But I will say this now. This coming season, it is all on Sean McVay. Because now you are back to getting the coaches that you want. You are returning for all of that. All the guys like Brandon Staley talked about, the guys who are hungry, who have the vision that I have for how it should be done. All of these things. It's on you now. Yep.
It's on you.
I don't want to hear
no accountable.
Excuses.
Be accountable. Like why do you have to you know who lost their job after 28-3? When the Falcons blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl, not in a wild card game, in the Super Bowl. Did Dan Quinn lose his job? No, he didn't. Kyle Shanahan got a promotion. He got a head coaching job. Nobody lost their job because a team blew a 25-point lead in the biggest game of their lives. You don't always have to settle it that way. Go to the root of the problem, and sometimes the root of the problem is the head man. Anyway.
Or it is the real head man or woman who is at the top of the organization.
Right. Oh, that's truth. That's a lot of truth right there.
Yeah, we know that we're the defending AFC champions, and so there's an edge to this team where we're not an underdog to anybody. And so I think that's just been the feeling we've had all season. We don't really care what anybody else says about us. We know we belong in the field with every team in this league.
I always enjoy going on the road. It's just you and your guys. Feels like it's you against the world, and that's where we like to be.
Do you feel like an underdog going into this game?
I never feel like an underdog.
One of my favorite guys in the league, man, Joe Burrow. I love listening to Joe Burrow. I'm telling you, just the confidence, just the swag, man. He's got it. It's just very natural. Great charisma from Burrow. Now, we spent, Trotter, roughly 25, 26 minutes agreeing with one another, confirming one another's takes. Now, I think we're going to disagree because I
got to sit upright for this.
Yeah. I think the Bengals,
as
it says there, I think the Bengals are the AFC's best team, which you could disagree with. But you think that Bengals-Bills should be a neutral site game. It's going to be a great game regardless of where it is. It happens to be in Orchard Park, New York on Sunday. But why do you think this game should be a neutral site one?
Well, first of all, we agree on the AFC. I think the Bengals are the best team in the AFC. So that's first. Second, I think it should be a neutral site game from this standpoint. We know how the league came up with its decision on how it was going to structure things without counting that Buffalo-Cincinnati game. And since the game earlier this season, late in the season, was in Cincinnati between the Bills and the Bengals, and the Bengals were leading early in that game, to me, I always had the Bengals winning that game. That was just my viewpoint. And so I feel like now they're being penalized in a way, having to go on the road and play at Buffalo in a playoff game, when really they may have been the better team all along, and they didn't get to prove it that night. So that's just my take on it. I think just to make it right, go play it at a neutral site game and let the better team win. But and this is strong here, I agree with Zach Taylor and I agree with Joe Burrow. And my attitude is always, look, you know what? If you're the best, you'll win anywhere. It doesn't matter. I firmly believe that. We have seen wild card teams win the Super Bowl, and I still believe that Cincinnati is the best team in the AFC, and I believe that it will go on the road and do what has to be done.
Yeah, and let's not further the precedent of neutral site games in the playoffs, short of the Super Bowl. Now, I think, as a matter of fact, the Super Bowl.
Right, but but come on, Michael. I mean, these circumstances were so unprecedented.
I know,
you're right.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
And you can go with, you know what? We never even had to get there. They were unprecedented, but as a result of the unprecedented circumstances, you know who stood tallest? Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor. They stood tall.
No question.
It was
no question.
Hey, whatever. And McDermott said it. We heard it in that press conference, that initial press conference where he's on the dais with Josh Allen. He said, I said to the team, you want to go out there and here are the consequences. If you don't play, we can't take a loss in this game. We might forfeit or whatever. And they said, we don't care. So that was the right decision. But because of that decision, I feel like it should have just gone to winning percentages. So it shouldn't be a neutral site. I don't think Atlanta should be a neutral site for the conference championship. Listen, because of the percentages, Kansas City's your true 1. Buffalo's your true 2, Cincinnati's your true 3, and you live with it.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm good with that. So I don't think there's a big disagreement with it. I just think that this one game, in my opinion, I'm not even talking about a conference final. I just think these two teams, because these were the two teams who were involved in that game, right? That changed everything. To me, the two of them, just put it on a neutral side and let them play. Or if anything, put it back in Cincinnati where the earlier game was and do it that way. That's just how I feel. But having said that, Cincinnati, if you are the team that I think you are, go out and handle business and do what you got to do. And we'll see you down in Glendale, Arizona.
Well. On the way.
So I know
they do what they got to do.
You're going to say I jumped over Kansas City there, and you're right. When you beat 18 3 times in a calendar year, I'm going to make you the favorite over that team if you play it a 4th time in, what would that be, 13 months,
Kansas
14
City?
months?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I want to talk about, forget about neutral sites. I want to talk about your area. I want to talk about where young Jim Trotter did his damage back in the day, loving Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers, because that game will be, well, it's not really San Francisco though, Santa Clara. It's not really San Francisco, but you got Cowboys.
Dallas isn't really Dallas.
I know. I just like kind of like throwing that. Like Santa
and New
Clara's
York isn't really New York. And New York isn't really New York.
Hey, Jersey is closer to New York City than Santa Clara is to San Francisco. That's a hump. That's a real drive, right?
No,
I mean, it's right there.
Wait, hold on. It's only a real drive because of the traffic involved. It's only a real drive because of the traffic involved.
Man, when I'm in the Meadowlands, I can reach across and touch New York City. I can just touch it. Anyway, San Francisco, Dallas this weekend. I have backed myself into a corner, arguing with Michael Smith. And so now I'm in a corner. And I'm just going to make it worse. I'm going to stay in the corner. I'm going to burrow myself into a corner. Not Joe Burrow. I'm going to burrow myself into this corner because I think that Dallas is going to blow out the Purdy's. Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. I like Dallas in this. I keep waiting for Purdy to Purdy, and maybe this is the game for it. Tell me I'm wrong. That Brock Purdy is the real deal, and he's not. Okay, tell me why.
You're wrong, and he is the real deal. And if you wanted, you could just play back Vinny's comments from yesterday. Let me tell you something. When I was at the game where Jimmy Garoppolo went down in the first quarter and Brock Purdy came in, and I always say this, I don't get caught up in stats and all of that. The first thing I look for is how does a player conduct himself? What I mean by that is, can you see nerves? Does the moment appear too big for him? And in that moment where he stepped in, remember, they were playing a Miami team that was hot at the time, wanted to make a statement on the road, all of that. And Brock Purdy stepped into that game, and it was like he was a 12-year veteran. Now, everything wasn't perfect, but what you saw is that the moment was not too big for him. Now go to last week's playoff game. Was there again. Early on, I thought I saw a few jitters playing in the playoffs for the first time. But after that first quarter of that first half, what did he do? He settled in. And again, what is so great for him is that he has truly one of the all-time great play designers in Kyle Shanahan. And if you watch many of his throws, I mean, he's got a player running wide open. And that comes from play design in part. And all he does, and he will say this repeatedly, is all I have to do is distribute the ball to our playmakers and let them do what they do. And that's when you see all of these yards after catch that we see. So I don't see that being an issue here in terms of all of a sudden Purdy is going to look like the rookie or the last pick in the draft. I think this guy is for real. And I thought Vance Joseph said something really interesting to me last week. Vance Joseph, defensive coordinator of the Cardinals. Cardinals were the last team to play the 49ers this season in the regular season. And Vance said that this guy performs like a veteran. And I said, well, Vance, how does a guy like this go to the last pick in the draft? And he said something that was really interesting to me. He said, because he started for 4 years in college. And he said, so there is a bigger book on him for teams to nitpick things.
That's good.
He said,
I like that.
When you see a Trubisky or you see a Kenny Pickett or somebody who might have only 1 year and they have that great 1 year, there's not as much to look at. And so you base a lot of your evaluation on that 1 year. And the thing that he loves about Brock Purdy is the man has played a lot of football. And so now getting into a situation like this, it's not foreign to him. And that's why I think we are not going to see Brock Purdy fall off the cliff, so to speak, as we go through these playoffs.
I like that. I like that. And I love that insight from Vance Joseph. It makes a lot of sense. I'll say this as we head to break, and we'll get to Dr. Jason Johnson on the other side. I'll say I don't think he's faced a defense quite like Dallas. The kind of pressure Dallas can put on you, the speed the playmakers they have. I mean, think about Miami, think about Seattle. He's played Seattle twice, once in the regular season, once in the playoffs. Tampa Bay. I don't really think he has had the kind of resistance that he's about to get on Sunday. I'm telling you, Jim Trotter.
No, you didn't say that. No, you didn't say Dallas was going to win. You said Dallas was going to blow them out. Am I right? Okay.
You're right.
I'll see you next week.
I'll see you next week. I like that. I'll see you next week. It's like a boxing match. I'll see you next week then. We'll be there. I'll be there at weigh-in. Jason Johnson up next.
I've been mutton and showing I chose not to, but now I'm out here walking with the football team, picking up trash. But I'm mutting us. Man, get out of here, man. I should leave. I'm not even under contract doing this. I'm mutting us? Man, get out of here, man. They mutt me. These cause ain't even clean my damn office when I got here. I'm mutting y'all? Get your ass, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. All this here was trash in front of me. Who you think got this cleared out? That building right there got trash in it. It's f***ing trash. What are you talking about? You need no donors to come out and help out, because people just want money. That's why I don't f*** with social network. F*** out of here, man. Prime was not wrong about what he was saying. All y'all out there with y'all opinions full of crap, don't know. But needless to say, I just pulled up to work. We're gonna try to help y'all too, man, because I know a lot of HBCUs need help. I'm just here to help here first. I see it all too clearly. All our HBCUs need help. HBCUs need help. And they need help because of the people who's running it. It's broken mentalities out here. I've been here for a week and a half. I've been here for a week and a half and have done more than people that have been here in freaking years. And I'm not even hired yet. Damn shame. I holla.
So that is new Bethune-Cookman head coach Ed Reed, I think, because you calling out the school like that before the first game is played. I wonder, will he make it to the first game? But he's talking about all the issues that are happening at Bethune-Cookman. Dr. Jason Johnson, this got your attention. Tell us why it got your attention, Doc.
You know that Chappelle Show sketch where they're at Pop Copy? And he's like, F all of you, and then join Pop Copy. That's what this made me think of. I am so sick and tired. As you guys can see behind me, I am on campus at Morgan State University, a wonderful HBCU where I am faculty at. I am sick and tired of these drive-by, fly-by-night political analysts, journalists, and now apparently former NFL playing coaches who want to march into HBCUs, have been there for all the 5 minutes, and then attempt to lecture not only the school, the students, but the entire country on the almost 200-year history of historically black colleges and universities as if they know something because they walk through the quad. It's not just insulting what Ed Reed said, because it shows not only a lack of professionalism, but it shows a deeper level of disrespect that all too many African-American professional athletes have for HBCUs, the very schools that made it possible for their predecessors to get into the league to make opportunities available for them. I promise you, he doesn't know the history of HBCUs. I promise you, he's not as well studied as Eddie George, who said, hey, part of the reason that we've had issues at my school is because they don't have land grant money. I'm sure that Ed Reed hasn't done a minimal level of research to be able to say what he said, which is why he had to go back and apologize. But I promise you that if he had gone to a small, low endowment, predominantly white institution, he wouldn't have dared say what he did. And that's the larger issue we have here. I'm happy to have a discussion about HBCUs. I'm happy to have that discussion with people who know things. But what I don't like is black athletes going back to HBCUs and claiming that they're saviors when they don't know the difference. This man, he ain't too short. He ain't blown a whistle for one game or one play. So I think he might want to step back for a minute, even with his apology, and hit a book before he starts hitting social media.
Jason, can I ask you, how dangerous are his words and the words of Deion Sanders, and why? How dangerous are they?
They're incredibly dangerous. They're incredibly dangerous, and here's why. One, you feed into the overall negative zeitgeist about HBCUs, when in fact the story of HBCUs has been improving. Since the Obama administration, it's not necessarily crediting Obama, but since the Obama administration, the last 10 or 15 years, you've had more HBCUs move into the black, move into solvency, increase HBCU numbers across the country. And I'm not just talking our Ivies. I'm not just talking Howard and Spelman and Hampton. I'm talking about Johnson C. Smith. I'm talking about Central. I'm talking about Morgan had one of the largest incoming classes the last couple of years. More and more African-American students and athletes are recognizing, especially with the NIL, that there are opportunities to be had here. So when you have these prominent athletes who are given a lot of attention, who have millions of social media followers, downing these institutions, claiming that these institutions are institutional failures without having much institutional knowledge, it hurts fundraising, it hurts recruiting, and it damages the reputation of the school that many other students are leaving and trying to sell when they go to jobs in the real world.
Well, let me ask you both. Doc Johnson, you are teaching at an HBCU. Jim Trotter, you're a proud graduate of the real HU, Howard University. I love that. I love that little debate. I love that. And by the way, Doc, Trotter always says, hey, we never had institute in our title. I just want to put that out there. I love that.
No.
That was Weiss?
Yeah, that was Weiss. That was Weiss. You can't put that on me because I would never disrespect Hampton in that way.
But I do want to ask you guys this. Okay, it's all fair. It's all fair. to say, hey, what are these athletes doing? And why would they come out, with so disrespectful talking about things that they don't necessarily know the history of? Okay, how about the flip side? What's in it for Bethune-Cookman? Why does Bethune-Cookman reach out to Ed Reed as opposed to somebody else who may have more knowledge and more respect for what they're doing? Jackson State and Deion, that's well-traveled ground. But a lot of these schools are reaching out to these athletes who are not necessarily attuned to the greater mission. So why do you think that is?
Well,
if you're
it's
asking,
money.
go ahead,
Here's the thing. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with hiring. We call it stunt casting, right? There's nothing. Look, that's how you got Steve Nash, right? Okay, there's nothing wrong with hiring former athletes and making the assumption that maybe they could turn out to be decent coaches. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with taking somebody who's not that experienced and giving them an opportunity to teach young men and women who may be playing for them what the actual sport that they're trying to play in is like. There's nothing wrong with that. My issue is the disrespect. You have been offered a job, and so you're supposed to research the job before you go. For Ed Reed to say, oh, I'm here to save HBCUs, dude, had you never visited campus? Had you never talked to students? Did you know what your budget was going to be? Did you know what your financial circumstances were going to be? Like, this is the guy who shows up and goes to Chick-fil-A and is like, yo, there's grease all over the place. What is with this? It's Chick-fil-A, bro. That's why you got the job, right? So if you know that Chick-fil-A is going to be filled with chicken grease and waffle fries, how are you going to go to an HBCU that has suffered through financial difficulties in the state and be shocked that some of the facilities are not up to your local, up to your local Orange Theory? Chill out. Do some research before you start running your mouth. It's good for the school. It's also good for these athletes, but they need to show more respect.
Look, the only time many of these athletes have ever been on an HBCU campus was when they went on a recruiting visit to PWIs, and the PWIs brought them to an HBCU campus, making them believe that the culture was there, that it's okay if it's not on the PWI campus, they can get it here. When I was at Howard, Georgetown would bring is basketball recruits over to our place to be a part of the culture. And some of those players ended up marrying women from Howard. After that, down at LSU, what do? They take their recruits down to Southern. Why? To be part of that culture and make them feel comfortable down there. So it happens. So, look, for me, what's happening here with administrations when they do this apart is, look, we live in a celebrity culture. And if a Deion Sanders or an Ed Reed, Hall of Fame guys who are out there in the public that we know well, the name recognition and whatnot, come to you and say, hey, I have an interest in coaching, as the doctor said, I'm okay with that. But again, know what you're getting into. And then if you're truly there, like, I get tired of hearing them say, we're here to help HBCUs. We want to save HBCUs. Well, then don't look at them as a stepping stone. Do what Larry Scott is doing at Howard, where he was offered a job at Alabama as the tight ends coach under Nick Saban. He said, you know what? Nah, I'm going to pass on that because I feel I have a greater calling here at Howard and I want to do something. And so he stayed at Howard instead of going to Alabama. So that's my point. Just be real about what it is. And as an HBCU alum, I get tired of them looking at us at times, from what I hear, as stepping stones. I really do. There is something special if you've attended an HBCU. There is something special about that university, right? I'm just telling you, as someone who went and grew up going to predominantly white high schools and all of that, the minute I got on Howard's campus, man, I felt at home. It was just different, right? And there was that nurturing effect, and it helped me become a man, right? Not just to graduate and all that, but helped me become a man and understand what the real world was about, and people who had a vested interest in me succeeding in life, as opposed to me just going through school and getting a degree. So I would say to Ed Reed and these other former players who may want to do it, understand that there is a larger calling when you go to these schools, at least from my vantage point. And I'm not saying that you can't go on to a PWI or a Power 5 school or whatnot, but just understand what you're getting into and how we view you and what your real purpose can be.
Oh, well said, brother. Well said, Trotter. Before we go, Doc Johnson, we just got a few seconds left. Your take on Seattle's playoff game against San Francisco. You told me it was going to happen. I just wanted to know how you saw it.
I mean, it It was a beatdown. It was a beatdown. I've seen UFC competitions that were better than that. They were going to get beat down. The Seahawks are going to stay with Geno Smith. I'm very excited about that. They can continue to fight for a wild card spot for the next couple years because they're not going to end up being successful one way or another. And Brock Purdy is probably going to backstep, stumble his way all the way to a Super Bowl, which offends me deeply because, again, I cannot stand Nepo coach Shanahan. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody can beat the San Francisco Golden State Warriors of the NFL. I don't even think the Eagles can do it, as much as I'm in my Eagles green and I'm hoping for Jalen Hurts to go up there and beat Patrick Mahomes in the NFL championship.
I love that line. You catch that line he had, Trotter. He called him Nepo coach Shanahan. But that's like the NFL culture because look at the front office, ownership of San Francisco, family affair there. Dallas, family affair. Mike Brown is the owner of the Bengals because his father, Paul Brown, founded the franchise. Like all across, coaching staffs, general managers, ownership, like scouting, it's all over. That's America, I think. Doc Johnson, great to see you, brother.
66% of NFL head coaches are related to each other. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you, Doc.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.